Playwright, Celtic on 45th Street and 8th Avenue on Better Sports Network and the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel with the great Ryan Hallam here. I'm Matt Deutsch, and we've had a lot of fun drafting fantasy football for charity to benefit fantasycares.org. We're giving gifts to needy kids. What could be better of taking our passion for fantasy football? You got some of the greatest people in our industry in the room. We've got fans here. It's a fantasy football bonanza, and we're still going live on 45th Street and 8th Avenue in New York City. Proud to be with you and do a little good. Ryan, how's the day gone so far?
Oh, man, it has been fantastic. We've had 5 drafts. The last one is just about rolling, 10 rounds per draft live. And it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of people here. Everyone seems to be having a great time. The silent auction is starting to wrap up a little bit. And it's just, God, it's been another fantastic day for fantasycares.org, raising money for charity, doing fantasy football. I don't know what it could possibly be better.
Well, it's a great day to be in New York, and it's summertime, and had a lot of dignitaries here. There's a lot of cocktails being consumed and a lot of fantastic merchandise over here. I saw Paul O'Neill Yankees jersey. I saw Yankees tickets. I saw well, why don't you tell us what else is out there?
There's
silent auction.
We have NYCFC tickets. We have Chris Godwin signed football. We have a Kevin Mawai signed jersey. Sauce Gardner signed jersey. Joe Klecko signed football. Just tickets to the Yankees, tickets to the Brooklyn Cyclones. So we are all New York here today, but also raising money for charity, which, of course, is the most important part of why we're here.
Absolutely. We're going to bring you a lot of fans to be able to partake in our fantasy football bonanza here. There's a lot of people in the room that want to talk about fantasy, and we're bringing our friend over here.
I see John June in the room. Let's get John in here. Come on, John.
Take the mic from me.
John?
What's going on,
Welcome
Ryan?
to the Playwright, man.
Glad to be here.
What draft were you in today?
I was in the KGB draft today, drafting from the 8 slot.
And when you came in, you had a strategy, I'm sure.
Yes.
So were you able to have that come to fruition? Or, how Scott Fishbowl drafts go, you never know what's going to happen. So did it work for you, or did you have to pivot? How did your draft go?
So, to be honest, Ryan, in years past, I've come in with a strategy, I've come in with a plan, and it just never goes to fruition because this is the largest fantasy tournament in the world. There's guaranteed to be somebody in your league that has a very similar thought process to you. And so what I've come to realize over the last few years in Scott Fishbowl, it's a large field tournament. Get your guys, get the guys that you're happy with, the guys that you're excited to root for, and just have fun. So I came in with one strategy today, drafting from the 8 slot. It was Breece Hall or bust, and he fell to me at 8, and I pulled the trigger faster than I could have imagined.
Not only is it someone's going to have a strategy similar to yours, someone's going to do something that you don't expect. Like I'm in a slow draft. There's way too much to do here for me to draft as well. So I'm in one of the slow drafts. I had someone who took a tight end with their first 4 picks. Right? Certainly didn't expect that. Sam Laporta, 5th overall in my draft. I got CD Lamb at 202. It's like, no way did I expect that. So, not only are you probably have someone who has a similar strategy, you definitely also have someone who's doing something you have no idea what to expect.
Absolutely, most definitely. Tight end position, I could see why they would target that. It's a very high value position this year with the 1.5 point PPR and then the basically essentially 1.5 point first down per first down. So I started the tight end run, taking Travis Kelce in the 2nd round. I'd much rather be at the start of a run than the end of it there. So and then immediately after that, Sam Laporta was the very next pick by Scott the King. Definitely see a lot of different things happen in Scott Fishbowl.
Absolutely. But it's funny. So now after this, we all have to transition back to regular leagues where there's not crazy scoring or there's not all that. So how many roughly how many leagues do you think that you're in this year?
Oh, man. This might be a slow year for me. So I might be in about 15 or 20 compared to 30 leagues in years past. But it's always exciting. I mean, between the different dynasty leagues, and then I've got a league with some of my best friends from college, and then my work league. some other leagues. So yeah, probably about 15 when it's all said and done.
That's not too bad. So yeah, I think we've had a pretty good time here today in New York City. Your draft, honestly, what was it, an hour? It was one of the faster leagues that I saw happen. So were there any surprises that you remember?
Oh yeah, I think I surprised everybody today. I probably took Aaron Rodgers earlier than he had gone in any of the leagues. I took him in the third round. Jets fan.
Wow.
So definitely, there was quarterbacks were flying, and I wanted to make sure Rashee Rice in the ninth round, or eighth, maybe the eighth round. I can't remember, eighth or ninth. I've had a couple of beverages, so please forgive me.
I think we all have.
Yeah, so definitely, I think I was from the eighth slot, probably the one. I'm still eyeing there to fill out the rest of my roster here.
Now, are you the kind of do you enjoy the live drafts, or do you like personally the slow draft with the 8 hours to go over it or to think about it? I do prefer. Now, again, I couldn't draft here today, but I don't know that I would, even if I do like, especially with the Scott Fishbowl. I do like the little bit of extra time to think about it, but this is the second year you've been here and do live drafts. So is it the draw of the camaraderie and the fun of doing it live, or do you just like?
Yeah, so to answer that question, Ryan, I do actually prefer live drafts. I mean, growing up, that was all we ever did was live drafts,
True.
right? And so I loved that part of it. The energy, the room, that part is great. But last year, I was at the live draft event in New York City, and it was just such a wonderful experience. I wasn't even drafting, but you could just feel the excitement in the room, talking to all the people about their teams. And I just said to myself last year, I've got to find a way to get into the live draft this year. And so this year when I got my invite and I went to go sign up, I remember reaching out on Twitter like, hey, are there any more live drafts left? And I remember you saying no. And then you DM'd me like 2 days later and you're like, hey, his spot just opened up. And I immediately ran and went to go fill in that spot because, again, just to be a part of something like this, something so special, the Scott Fish Bowl, where it's one of the largest fantasy tournaments in the world, and it's for a great cause. To provide toys to children for charity. We've got the silent auctions here. I've got my name on a few biddings here, so I'm kind of nervous that I might lose out on something while I'm here in this spot. But again, a great opportunity here to be a part of something special.
Well, we appreciate you coming, man. I'm happy that we can give you a few minutes on here. I hope you enjoy the rest of the time here at the Playwright Celtic, and I'm just so glad you came, and I appreciate you and appreciate your time. And good luck to you in the Scott Fish Bowl, and I hope you're there at the end.
Pleasure's mine, Ryan.
All right,
really
man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. We're going to bring Matt Deutsch back in.
Yep, we got some more guests joining us. You can run through the Slimer results, if you will, Ryan. That's going on right now before Josh Hudson gets in here.
I mean, it's pretty not too many surprises there, I would say.
I'm going to share the screen.
5 quarterbacks out of the first 7. Tyreek Hill is the number 1 receiver, I would say, is certainly a surprise. But, Christian McCaffrey, 2nd overall. Bijan Robinson, the 1st round. Breece Hall. I think that's outside of Hill and Lamb. I don't think there's anything too far out of the ordinary.
We've seen every Scott Fish Bowl draft is a little bit different. Anthony Richardson went number 1 overall in my league. We saw in the Corleone draft right here in the New York City live draft, 6 straight quarterbacks to start the first round. And then in the other drafts, it's been a cornucopia. I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey, number 2 overall in the Slimer, with Tyreek Hill, number 5. So it's build your team however you want. We're bringing in Josh Hudson here from Club Fantasy. You know him, you love him. And the women of fantasy football. You've done great work for our industry. So let me just say thank you for everything that you've done. And tell us about this event here. You're here from Florida with the great leap of faith. And,
I am.
Tell us about your journey to New York.
I am. Appreciate that, first off, for bringing me on board, Matt. Yeah, so it was kind of funny. Faith likes to travel around to a lot of different locations. And she's like, hey, Josh, I got a free ticket to come to New York. You want to draft in NYC this year? I said, give me an excuse to go to New York. I'm all about it. So I spent last weekend in Orlando for their live draft, just kind of scouting and, shooting it up with friends of mine that I've made there since I live in Florida. And then coming out here to NYC, where I love and adore New York. I grew up in New Jersey as a little kid. So, being able to venture to the city, I'm all about it. And I love this place. So it's nice to come home.
Now, you got a lot of friends in our industry. Everyone knows Josh Hudson. And this community has really come together for Scott Fishbowl and fantasycares.org. Really amazing. Gives us all warm and tingly feelings what Scott Fish has created. How did you get involved in Scott Fishbowl? What does it mean to you?
So the first year I got involved was SFB 11. So that would have been, I believe, 3 years ago. I know Faith started in SFB 10, which I believe was the first year of the WAF podcast that we launched that in 2020, which I know Scott does a lot to try to get more women involved in fantasy football. And so he and I have had a lot of conversations, obviously, with what we do with women in fantasy football. And yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty easy growth from there, honestly. Like, he wants to get more women involved. We obviously are all about getting women involved in fantasy football. Feels like a pretty good marriage, honestly.
Well, the Scott Fishbowl and Fantasy Cares does a lot of good for our community and obviously for kids that are in need of holiday gifts. You can donate now at fantasycares.org. Just go right there and donate. You want to come down to the Playwright Celtic, we've got amazing merchandise here that you could bid on 45th Street and 8th Avenue. But you also do a lot of good for our industry, Josh. And the Women of Fantasy Football, very, very important organization. You've empowered people. You've made them better. You've given them opportunity. You're giving scholarships away. Tell us a little bit about the work you do with the Women of Fantasy Football.
Yeah, so every August we do our the WAF podcast. So this year it'll air on the 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th of August. We bring on a couple women every single week that have prominent roles in the fantasy football and also the world of sports as well. Just kind of talk about their journeys and, the things that they're doing within the world of sports. And we raffle off a series of jerseys. All of that money that we raise from those raffles goes into our WAF Galvanize Scholarship Fund. So our partnership with Galvanize, if you're unfamiliar with Galvanize, they're an organization that's run by Laura Oakman. She is a NFL on Fox sports reporter, and she hosts these boot camps and seminars with NFL teams, sports franchises across the country, and it's like 2-day camps, and they're set up to kind of show women the world of sports, right? Like, they want to build these careers in broadcasting and sports media. And so partnering with these teams, they link them up with their rookies, and they're able to build these sort of relationships, because a lot of what Laura preaches is not so much the why, but the who. So it's less about, why you're doing this and who you are as a person. And that's something that I feel like is very lost when it comes to media and, building relationships with athletes. And it's just something that, we're very proud to have a relationship with her, but also partner with her in what she's built with Galvanize.
How special is that? Amazing work you're doing. Let's talk Eagles. You're a big fan.
I am.
The Eagles are being drafted left and right in the Scott Fishbowl. We've got Hurts, we've got Barkley, we've got Brown, we've got Smith. How's this offense going to break down? We got a new offensive coordinator coming in here. We have a successful tush-push leading up to the end of last season. No offense. Obviously, it broke down a little bit with the tush-push. We saw Jalen Hurts in a vulnerable position. We see your center has retired. What's going to happen inside the goal line? How's this offense going to work in general?
Okay, so first off, it's the brotherly shove, not the tush push.
All right.
That's the first thing. But second, I mean, I get the idea that Jason Kelsey was the cog that really sort of, pushed everything forward, right? And that very well could be the case. Cam Jurgens, the expected replacement for Jason Kelsey, was drafted 3 years ago with the idea that he would succeed Jason Kelsey. And he got valuable starter snaps last year as guard for the Eagles. So transitioning over, I don't think they're going to miss too much of a beat, but I also know that that's also very disrespectful to Jason Kelsey. But the simple fact of the matter is Jalen Hurts squats over 600 pounds. Saquon Barkley squats over 600 pounds. I think they can push the pile just fine if they really want to continue to run the tush push. But I think with Kellen Moore coming in as our offensive coordinator, and I'm probably the wrong person to say this because I was unrealistically high on the Chargers offense last year with Kellen Moore coming into the fold. But I think that they're going to be able to run a lot more under center. They're going to pass the football more, but they're also going to utilize what the offense brings, and that is Jalen Hurts' legs powering through the middle. Saquon Barkley they bring in because of his ability not only between the tackles, but also along the edges and in the passing game. This is a pass funnel offense. It starts with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. It will extend to Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley. This is an offense that you 1,000% want a piece of when it comes to fantasy football.
Well said, Josh Hudson from Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy Football. A.J. Brown, this guy is going to have a good year, but how good? Where are we ranking him? Is a big mix of receivers, end of the first, early second. In the Scott Fishbowl, it turns into the third round. A.J. Brown was taken in the mid-third round of this Slimer draft right here, but obviously we've seen him go much higher than that. So this draft went Hill, Lamb, Jefferson, St. Brown, Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson. Oh, it's third round reversal. Excuse me. Hill, Lamb, Jefferson, Brown, Chase, and A.J. Brown. First Brown was Amon-Ra. So where are you ranking A.J. Brown amongst that class of receivers?
So in my non-Scott Fishbowl rankings, I have A.J. Brown as my wide receiver 4 in the season. He's coming into this year with 2 straight 1,400-yard plus seasons. He's clearly the alpha when it comes to the Eagles' passing game. I'm all on board on A.J. Brown. I think the biggest thing is going to be, is he going to improve upon how many touchdowns he had last year? I see no reason why he can't do that. Like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed, quote unquote, in this offense. But I think when you're looking at how the Eagles can improve from last year to this year, ultimately it's more pass attempts. When you look at Kellen Moore offenses, statistically speaking, they are not afraid to throw the football. They're going to throw the football more this year in Philly. That is going to benefit A.J. Brown. Increase the target share, increase the slice of the pie. That's ultimately going to boost his stats across the board.
Well, I want to have him just from you talking about him. I'm glad I grabbed him in a few leagues. Tell us about all the fine shows and podcasts you're producing. You've got an amazing amount of content. Tell us where it is and what you're doing.
I appreciate that, Matt. So you can follow Club Fantasy at Club Fantasy FFL, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We go live all 7 days of the week. We have 9 to 10 shows now, I believe. We have everything from best ball to redraft to dynasty. We have 3 different mock draft shows that we do every single week. Wow. So if you're getting ready to prepare for the 2024 NFL season, you can link up with all of our different mock draft shows. We have one on Monday night. It's called Mocking with the Stars with our man Gator J and Chris Battistow. We have Thursday night mock draft show that's actually our WAF, our Women of Fantasy Football mock draft show with Wendy Earley and Julia Papworth, who also contributes with Football Guys and the Fantasy Footballers. And then, of course, we have our Saturday morning mock draft show with my guy Ryan Weiss and Austin Amendolia. Mock drafts literally every single week. You get a different variety every single day that we go live. So it's a good pace of play, so to speak, for everybody that tries different things, whether it's IDP, redraft, Superflex, tight end premium, whatever. You know, we try to cover a little bit of everything so that everybody focuses on what their leagues are about.
Be the best drafter you could be. Start getting into some mock drafts with Club Fantasy. You can't ask for more opportunity to draft with great people and to learn some things. Let's get Ryan in here.
Ryan, come on,
buddy.
buddy.
Josh, for joining us. Always good.
I'll step back.
Get
It's his
Ryan
time now.
Weiss in here. You just finished your draft. Welcome. Come on in here. Now, you work with Club Fantasy also? I thought it was football guys. Tell me all the work you're doing.
All of my writing work goes with football guys. If you're looking for anything I do writing, it's going to be there, and you'll find my rankings there. And then anything I do podcast-wise is with Club Fantasy, and I do a lot of the editing over there for all of their articles.
Wow. And where do you live?
I'm in Albany, so 2 hours north of here, but we made a whole weekend of it, brought the family down. It's been a great time so far.
That's so nice. What league were you in Scott Fishbowl 14? What division?
In 14, I'm in Blade.
Blade. All right, let's go check out your draft here. How did it go? Tell us about it.
It went absolutely terribly. As you guys just were pitching mock drafts, and mock drafts are fantastic, but sometimes things just do not go the way you expect them to go in a mock draft. Or, in the real draft after doing the mock draft. So all of the players I thought were going to end up with me did not end up with me. We had a weird run on running backs and wide receivers early in the draft, which let quarterbacks fall, which was just not what I expected to see happen in our draft.
Well, let's walk through your team here. Where are you here?
Oh, this is not our league.
Oh, I've got too many leagues up here. Which one is this? You were here? No, this is Slimer.
Yep. We'll get there.
We just had yours up here. Let me stop sharing here. We'll go back to it. Blade?
It is Blade. I saw it didn't come up when you. Yeah, it's not going to. No, it's doing the same thing to you again. It's going to a different tournament when you click on that one.
Oh, all right. Well, I apologize for
That's
that.
okay.
So tell us your picks and your strategy here.
Yeah. So everything told me that I was going to get one of either Bijan Robinson or Breece Hall to end the first round, and they went in the first 4 picks of that. So with the quarterbacks falling, I'm very high on Dak Prescott, even in a league where rushing quarterbacks are more favored. I think we saw great Dak Prescott last year, and I don't see a reason for that to change this season. So I ended up going Dak Prescott with able to get Amon-Ra St. Brown on the turnaround on the second round. It's a tight end premium league. So Trey McBride in the third round, and then had my fingers crossed because I got Amon-Ra St. Brown to get Jared Goff in the 4th round, and he went 1 pick before me on a completely unexpected pick. So nothing really went to plan. So I ended up grabbing Deebo Samuel there and grabbing Trevor Lawrence as my second quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy, again, Trevor Lawrence has an underrated rushing upside where Trevor Lawrence, I believe, rushed for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. There are players out there that aren't your stereotypical rushing quarterbacks that still have a little bit of value in a league like this, especially when you're favoring first downs and the like.
Well, I was well said. And when I saw the scoring system, I was worried about the quarterbacks that don't run. What is it, 1 point for every 50 yards passing?
Yes.
So it's a little different. I'm a little worried. And I drafted Goff and Dak myself. So I was
wonderful.
right with you.
You made me so happy just by saying that.
Well, I'm worried about it. I mean, I think both of them are going to have huge years.
I agree.
And hopefully they won't need to do the rushing yards to make up for it, be able to do it. But, it's when you see a format like this, you try to kind of conform to the rules. How much do you weigh in special teams in this format? We're getting points for return yards on punts and kickoffs, and obviously tight end premium. So when you see a league like this, what's your process? Because everyone's got a different league.
Yep.
If I'm going into a league, I see my rules. How do I know how to tailor my strategy?
So for me, it's as easy. I helped create a spreadsheet where I am able to put any league scoring system into a spreadsheet and see how it totals out to my own projections. When you look at the premiums, what I like to look for is how big of a premium is it? If it's a half point for a tight end premium, it still doesn't make tight ends that more valuable. It makes the good guys even better. So guys like Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, they're just going to be so much better than the bad guys. But this is a big tight end premium, and what it does is it makes them more available to start in your flex position. And so for me, even after I got Trey McBride, I prioritized getting, if there was someone I believed in, and there was, a great second tight end. And for me, that's Brock Bowers. As a guy who was looked at as, quote unquote, and it's a term I don't love, but generational talent, and yet we're not drafting him at all that way. And I don't know if we're just terrified of the Las Vegas Raiders and what could happen there. But when you have a guy like Bowers who could come in and command 100 to 120 targets, one of the things people were knocking Bowers on was size. When I did his size comparison, he matches up size pound for pound with Sam Laporta, who was the tight end one as a rookie last year. So what's to say Brock Bowers couldn't do that? When it comes to the return yards, it's interesting. I wanted to dive in wholeheartedly, which we've seen in some of these Scott Fishbowl drafts with guys like Rashid Shaheed and the people we know are going to be. But a good friend of mine, Austin Amendolia, who I do the mock draft show, pointed out that if you look at the return yardage from 21 and 22, there's almost no correlation to what we saw in 23. So we're guessing on what we've seen in the past, but with this new return game, it could be a completely different game in the NFL this season.
Well, when I hear return yards, I think Cordaro Patterson.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to give up on him. I think he's going to have a strong year, especially since we don't just have to score touchdowns. They get 10 points for a TD on the return in this league. But you're getting points for yardage, and Cordaro, he's tough to bring down. He's old, but he's still got it. And did he get drafted in your league?
Not yet. So we're only 10 rounds in on the Scott Fish Bowl Lives. I'll tell you right now, and anybody in my division is now getting a look at my draft board. 17th round, I have him pinned right now. He does not have a very high ADP, but I love that you called him out. What I really love is his confidence. He knows that this rule was made to help a guy like him. And where there are questions about the return game with a ton of NFL teams, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's no question. They brought in Cordero Patterson after this rule was put in place to play this role. They know what they have there. So all this smoke screen about Justin Fields could return kicks, it's not happening because you have Cordero Patterson. And you pointed out, yes, he is older, but we're not asking him to carry the ball 300 times. We're asking him to return 3 kicks a game, which if you throw 3 kicks and 1 touchdown, that could be a 30-point week in Scott Fish Bowl.
Crazy. You're hearing some smart things from Ryan Weiss of Football Guys and Club Fantasy.
Yeah.
And who else are you working with?
Just those two. I already work hard enough. So, well,
Women of Fantasy Football.
I always joke that Josh Hudson, Faith Enos do all the work for Women of Fantasy Football. And I want to throw Kelly Singh in there as well. I am just the biggest cheerleader. All I do is retweet and make sure they get the support they deserve. I don't do any of the work. Don't let them tell you that I do.
You got a lot of smart people in this room in New York City at the Playwright Celtic on 45th and 8th Avenue. And Scott Fish Bowl is worldwide now. We've been in Barcelona. We've been in Brazil. We've been in London, Vancouver, Mexico City, Hawaii, even Buffalo, New York. And drafts aren't stopping. Philadelphia tomorrow, and just an amazing organization. They have raised over $350,000 this year alone for fantasycares.org, not only by the great professionals like Ryan and the people in this room, but the fans out there who have all come together to raise money for needy kids to buy them holiday gifts this season. Do you remember a holiday gift that you really enjoyed when you were young?
I'm a video gamer. I remember when I got my Sega Genesis, it was basically the happiest moment of my life. I got to turn it on, play Sonic the Hedgehog when I was in 5th grade in my Chicago Bulls hoodie. My mom had it in her head. I was a Bulls fan. We grew up in Northeast Ohio. I don't know how that happened, but Chicago Bulls and the Sega Genesis playing Sonic the Hedgehog.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Ryan, for joining us.
Matt,
Thanks
absolutely.
for coming down here and helping us out at Scott Fish Bowl. Cheers.
Always great to see you,
Have
buddy.
a great
Look
season.
forward to next year.
Let's get Nate in here. Nate Cheatham. He's an IDP guy, but he knows offense too. Oh, come on in here, Nate. I made it a little tight for you. Here he is.
Hey, what's going on?
Tell us who you're working for these days.
Oh, man. So I, number one, am with IDP Plus. We are a IDP offense, sports betting website, content, and YouTube channel. But also on top of that, I work with Bob Long at the FF Expo, Canton, Ohio, August 9th through 13th this year. And yeah, I absolutely love doing that and being part of the fantasy community as a whole.
Well, we've got the best community of any industry. We all know that. And we've all come together for the Scott Fish Bowl 14 all around the world. But the Fantasy Football Expo in August is also a fantastic event in Canton, Ohio, site of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's one of the, along with Scott Fish Bowl, one of the only fan events that we have in this industry. It's always, quote, experts and analysts, but it's wonderful to get up in front of the fans and meet people, and that's what we get to do at the Expo. Have a lot of fun at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, drafting fantasy football, and meeting the people. Tell us how it's going. How's the Expo coming together?
Oh, the Expo's going amazing. I'm really excited for everything that's going to happen here in another month. Everyone coming in from all over the country, the world. There are people that come from, Europe, Canada, Mexico. I think I've heard of someone coming from Australia even. And then this year's special, we are extending and adding in on Saturday. There's going to be a sports betting expo that will be part of it at the same location that the fantasy on Sunday expo will be. So just overall, it keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger. And if you haven't gone to the expo, listen, it's not just for the industry people. It's for the fans. It's there. Come meet, from the big guys at CBS, ESPN, NBC, all the way down to your favorite creators on YouTube. They're all there, and you get a chance for, hey, make a vacation of it, come out and get to hang out and talk football.
And a pretty spicy flag football tournament over there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Get to play right on some of those fields. So there's both the practice fields, but also we've played in the stadium. It's a week after the Hall of Fame game was just played, so you get to go onto that field. You get to see what it's like to be in the middle of the stands and in the middle of the field where everyone was just playing a week ago. All of your favorite players from those teams that play. And you get to play the flag football. There's other events along with it. There's a great poker tournament that happens. There's draft night out, which you get to come in and actually do a live draft, very similar to the Scott Fishbowl Lives here, all there in Canton.
Wow. Well, I'll be there, and can't miss that one. Let's talk some IDP.
Sure.
Individual defensive players. Gets me excited. What's new this year as far as free agents, whatnot? Who's high, who's low? Tell us kind of how the IDP breakdown is. Let's assume that all the positions are graded evenly, so it's not all about middle linebackers, and defensive tackles have some value. So tell us some of the sleepers out there, and maybe some of the stronger picks on the draft board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, if you were able to get a TJ Watt at a defensive lineman position, that's almost a game changer. It's almost a broken player. He's just too good at that position. So going and grabbing your TJ Watt early on, and when you can get him at that value at a defensive lineman, it's just a game-winning move right there. But then on top of it, you've got your Micah Parsons, your Nick Bosa's that you can get a little bit later to still be competitive. There's the linebackers. You've got, Bobby Wagner. He's still a thing. He's still around. He's still a good player to get at a value.
Washington this year, right?
Yep. So, I highly recommend if you haven't played IDP, give it a try. If you're coming to the expo, there's actually an IDP league in the draft night out. Join the Lawrence Taylor division, and you'll actually get to meet me. I'll be running that league, and we have a special trophy just for the IDP portion.
I love individual defensive players because you get that Monday night primetime game, and you're going up against your opponent's running back. You've got the middle linebacker, and you're watching that battle all night. And It just team defense, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. It's too random. We have no idea who's going to be good anyway, week to week. Forget about before the season. IDP is a little more fair, and it's a little bit more skill-based. Now, I'm going to give you my guy, and he's not a sleeper at all, but I think Marcus Davenport in Detroit that I've heard nobody talk about, and I'm gobbling him up in all these leagues. It just seems to make sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. They definitely need that pressure to go with Aiden Hutchinson there on the line. I think he's had a very good long career with the Saints coming in, and just being able to, be there and put the pressure on the quarterback. I like him for this year. I think that you're onto something there.
Now, a free agent that's got a lot of buzz in the NFL world. I don't know about an IDP. You tell me, but I'm getting Brian Burns very cheap in my leagues, and he's with the Giants now.
Yeah.
And they all of a sudden got a strong defensive line. Tell us about Burns in New York.
Yeah, I like Burns going there. He's been a top 10 player in for the defensive line in IDP for a few years now since he's come in the league. He came in hot early, and then it's been a little bit of a backtrack for him. But going to New York, I really like him there, and very interested to see exactly how that goes. If you can get him for cheap, man, hit that all day.
Do you stack players in IDP and individual defensive player systems? If I have, let's say, the middle linebacker on the Jets, do I want the pass rusher as well? Does it work that way?
Well, look, only one player is going to get the tackle on each play, and so you're trying to go for who is the top tackler. I don't often stack between positions unless you've got a highly efficient defense. If you're talking about one of those defenses that are constantly, getting in, sacking the quarterback or stopping the run consistently, yeah, it's a little bit rare, but you can find those really good stacks where you can, grab a linebacker or even grabbing like a box safety that's coming down as well as a defensive end, because you're putting pressure on the quarterback. He's making a bad throw, and oftentimes it's going to one of those safeties. Or, hey, if you play in a cornerback league, cornerbacks that are getting those errant throws or even getting targeted because they're a rookie, hey, they're a good shot too.
Nate Cheatham from IDP Plus. We'll leave you on this. If somebody wants to get into individual defensive players, what's the best format? Should they start out very small with just drafting 3 players along with their full offense? Should they do the full boat, as we say, and do the full defensive line, linebackers, and secondary? Is it something in the middle like 7 players? What's the best way to get your feet wet?
Yeah, it really comes down to how much of a degenerate are you. When I started right into IDP, and I was doing 6 positions on IDP. What I would say is you want to create value in these positions so that, if you only think of it along the lines of the offense, if you only had one offensive player, there would only be your quarterbacks that would have any value. So you want to split up the positions and you want to create some value. So honestly, if you're just getting into it, starting with 6 defenders split up between defensive line, linebacker, and your defensive backs, that's a perfect way to just get your feet wet. But hey, we don't judge. If you only have one the IDP in your league, keep playing it. See if you can't grow that with your league and push your league mates to, kind of extend it.
Thank you, Nate. We've got the 50-50 raffles going off here, and we want to make sure everybody knows about the Fantasy Football Expo. Get yourself to Canton. Where do they sign up?
Yeah, go to thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Right there, you'll be able to see a link to buy tickets. You'll get to see what's going on at the event. There's an awesome video that, I put together of the different activities going on during that. So you get a good glimpse into what the weekend holds. But go to thefantasyfootballexpo.com and buy your tickets today.
You will not regret it, and it's a very cheap ticket, which is great, too. Plus, Canton, Ohio, the hotels are very inexpensive. Allows us to have more fun with food and drinks and cocktails and buying jerseys at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Thank you, Nate, for joining us. We're going to go check out our silent auction, our 50-50. We're going to wrap up coverage of Scott Fishbowl 14 live from New York City, the Playwright Celtic. Thank you, everybody, for helping us raise money and doing a great job for charity. Thank you.
Thank you.